Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm the Assistant Director at the Hudson Public Library. Our library has a history of needing to expand to meet the needs of the patrons. We've been in Hudson since the mid-1800s, but by the early 1900s, the library had outgrown its space in Town Hall. So the then librarian, Grace Whittemore, corresponded with Andrew Carnegie to ask him for funds to help support a new library. In 1905, that library opened here in our current location, and that library was just the ground floor and the main floor of what now exists in the front of the building. This level on the second floor was added in the late 1920s, and then the back addition of the library was done in the 1960s. That addition meant that there were additional services that could be had for the public. The problem is that there are structural problems with that addition. Also, over the course of the last 60 or so years since the addition was done, the library has outgrown its space needs again. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that the state, through the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, is offering grant money for libraries to do construction, remodeling, and such. If the library were to get that grant, and the construction costs for doing what we need to do here were about $20 million, the state would pay for about half that cost. So what is the size of a desirable library? The benchmark for that is about 1 square foot per capita. And since the Hudson population is currently about 20,000, the desirable library size would be about 20,000 square feet. Now, the size of the current library is slightly under 15,000 square feet, but some of the space that we have isn't usable in terms of serving the public. So basically, we need a bigger library. For the grant, the state only will give you money every 30 years, so they want you to do construction, keeping in mind the foreseeable needs of the community over the next 30 years, including taking in mind what population changes the community will have. And therefore, since the population of Hudson is expected to increase by about 5,000 in the next 30 years, the desirable library size of the library would be in the range of 25,000 to 30,000 square feet. On our top floor here, some of the problems that we have is that it's multi-purpose. As we move throughout the library, one of the themes you'll see is that a lot of the spaces that we are using for more than one thing. Basically, we're making do. It's not ideal, but we're serving the public as best we can. This is our quiet reading space, but it's also the space we use for programs. Even when programs aren't going on, there is noise that happens that makes it not so quiet. The elevator over here makes a lot of noise. Over here we have the technical services offices where books are processed, delivered, and entered into the computer. And therefore deliveries are made in the elevator because the boxes of books we get are pretty big. The floors creak, so when patrons are moving around the room to access our magazine collection or our newspapers, there's just noise that happens. So now I'm going to take you over to our meeting room. This is the one meeting room that we have in the library. It's called the Tavares room. You can notice that the furniture is kind of static. We are getting new furniture that will allow more flexibility in terms of the room setup, but it's not going to change the fact that it's just one room. A few weeks ago, when this room was being used, I noticed on the first floor there were 5 or 6 different groups of people meeting in different little nooks and areas on the first floor, and really that warmed my heart because part of our library mission is to empower community. So we really do want groups to be able to meet. But what libraries really do need to do is to provide multiple small, and this is kind of a medium-sized meeting room, but we need to have some smaller meeting rooms that would accommodate smaller groups that need or would like private space to have their conversations. If you follow me, we'll go down to the first floor. And I'm going to take you outside for a moment. If you notice, there's etched into the front of the library is a sign that says open to all. And that really is something that libraries are known for, to be a community asset, open to all. But unfortunately, we have to add to that phrase in our community. We kind of joke, but it really isn't a laughing matter if you can get in. To get into the library by our main entrance, you have to go up these stairs and then either up additional stairs or downstairs. There is an accessible entrance to the library, and in the past year, we've worked with the Traffic Commission to get the accessible parking spaces moved from the back of the library over to right in front of the library. But there still is the matter of getting in the library. And the steep gradient down to the accessible entrance that's right down here makes it hard for, say, a person in a wheelchair to get into the building or come out of the building. It would be difficult. Same thing for a parent pushing a stroller from the bottom of the hill. Basically, it's hard for anyone to get into the library. So this is our first floor. Again, in this area, you're going to see that it's multi-purpose. This is the area that we're turning into our makerspace, which we'll call the Tech Lab. We're still setting it up. But so this is one purpose. Over here is where we have the patron holds. And then on this other side over here is the teen area, which is a very small space. So it would be hard for more than one group of teens to use this space. And also the entirety of this area is close to the circulation desk, where conversations sometimes need to be basically loud enough for people to hear through the glass that was put up during COVID. And so, you know, the privacy, the conversations are not very private, and there's just not a sense of having your own space for the teens. So we want to do much better for the teens because they deserve it. People say such good things about what we have for the children, and then they age out of the children's room, and we just want to have better for the teens. Okay. As we move towards our reference area, there are computers in a few spaces. Again, the computers are near both the circulation desk and the reference desk. So there are conversations going on between the staff and patrons. And it can sometimes be difficult for patrons at the computers to concentrate. And then if you look down, you can really notice the difference between the old section of the library and where the addition starts. At different points of this area, there's some bowing in the floor. Some problems that we have in this area include the lack of lighting. And then if you come over here, you can notice that these shelves, there are problems underneath that are bad enough that we had to put the shelving together so that nothing bad happens, basically. A while ago, we wanted to turn the shelving 90 degrees because the high shelving and the way it's located means that the sight lines aren't so good to the back of the area. And so we consulted a structural engineer, and what he told us is that not only could we not turn the shelving 90 degrees, but that the structure underneath wasn't meant to hold the books on the shelf that we had then. So we had to do some strategic weeding and get rid of books that hadn't gone out in a few years. Now we have to have strategic addition to our collection so that we're getting more of books that are really popular so that they'll be out more of the time. And we're also spending more of our collection development budget on digital materials, which don't have to be in the library at all. As we get down to the ground floor, I'm going to point out the bathrooms. This is the only level that has bathrooms. And you see the ones on both sides have stairs down. So our only accessible bathroom is the one of the three that's in the children's room. We're going to head into the children's room. This room over here houses our older children's fiction, but it's also our story time room, which is, again, a multi-purpose use that isn't ideal. Because you can imagine during the summertime or vacation weeks, there can be a story time going on, and the room can be pretty full with little ones, and yet there will be older children who want to access the books in this room. So that's an issue. Over here is our accessible entrance. But right as you get inside the accessible entrance, there's a pole, a structural pole. It's not an ideal location for somebody who might have a wider wheelchair, but you kind of can get through, but it's, again, not ideal. Nor is this bookcase over here ideal because it makes getting to the elevator a bit harder, but we need this bookcase to house the collections we have. In the last couple of weeks, we've had a leak, it's in the same general vicinity that there was a leak of major plumbing issues a couple years ago that led to the closing of the children's room for several months. So this current damage is being assessed so that we can repair it. So if we're gonna head down the stairs, this is the accessible bathroom. There is a ramp down to the play area. There's just one thing I really want to show you in this area, and that's our play structure, which is very cute, and the kids do love to play in it, but research has shown that the ideal level of caregiver-children's interaction helps learning, and so for an adult, it would be difficult to get in this space. So we would like to have a play area that allows caregivers and children to play together more. I'm going to take you up on our stage, which is another multi-purpose area. So the tables are used for crafting purposes. If you look over here, you'll notice that we have storage of story time, gadgets, and other things. And then all around the stage, because we don't have enough room in our collections, there are the holiday books and movies. All right. So I'm going to take you into the staff area to show you some, well, it looks nice now, but there was major plumbing damage. We had known that there were problems going on with the plumbing because there was condensation on some of the walls and there was other evidence of problems. But then one day I came in this area and one of the ceiling tiles had completely fallen down and was covered in black, basically. So the area had to be closed immediately and remediated. And now it looks nice in terms of the flooring and the table and stuff. But some of the problems with the building are still evident. You can only use one of these appliances at once, because if you use more than one at once, it blows a fuse. So the electrical and the plumbing in the building are old. We still use oil heating, which if we were able to do construction or renovation, we would really like to not use oil heating. And then some of the other general issues that aren't particular to a particular floor, well, some are, but there's no, as I told you, there's no bathrooms on the second and first floor. There's no running water on the second floor, which can be problematic when we're having a program that might need water. With the heating, there can be very, very loud banging, which for anybody who's trying to accomplish some quiet work is a real problem. So we have had and continue to have issues, but one of our major issues you have to kind of see outside. So I'm going to take you there now. Oh, one thing I want to mention about this area is there's really no stroller parking. People have to leave their strollers outside, which on a nice day isn't the worst thing in the world, but we would like to have stroller parking. If you come over here, you can see one of the monitors of the cracks that are going on. The building is shifting. It's shifted 2.5 inches. The problem is that in the winter, it contracts, and then in the warmer months, it expands. The problem is that it doesn't get back to where it was the previous year. So it's a problem that's just getting worse and worse. And the reason for this problem is that when the structure was built in the 1960s, they used fill. They didn't use the proper materials to support the building. The structural engineer did a lot of digging in this area to actually find out what material was used underneath the building. And so it's not an easily fixable problem. So what does the future hold? Eventually, this part of the building is going to continue to cause problems. It's pretty clear to us. So we're looking to get ahead of the problem while we can get aid from the state. In terms of the library, we are applying for the state grant. The application is due in May, and decisions will be made in October. But town residents have a part too, because at the May town meeting, residents will need to approve the allocation of $150,000 for the design phase of the project. The state will match the $150,000 up to $100,000 for a total of $250,000. and the amount that the town sets aside will only be used if the library were awarded the grant and proceeds with it. So how can interested parties help? There are a couple of different ways. They can spread words to their family, friends, and neighbors that this project is necessary, that it benefits the community as a whole. They can take our survey and let us know what are their hopes for the future of the library facilities. And that survey is available both online and in paper at the library. The survey address, we have a short link to it, which is huds.pl/survey, HUDS.pl/survey. Whether you come into the library or go online, the survey is available in Portuguese and in Spanish. And besides taking the survey, you can come to town meeting in May and vote in favor of the allocation of the funds. That's the end of the tour, but if you have any additional questions, I'm always available to talk about it. My email address is laucoin@cwmars.org.